Minister can answer that and go back to conduct other business. So 5A and I think 5B too is not around. So I direct that they be rescheduled.
Health Honorable Ajimameno, Minister for Tourism Honorable Apawu, were all here to respond to the questions, but the members were not available. The Hansard must capture same for the record.
I mean, Kweku, I'm just curious. So the entire minority side was empty. There was not a single soul in the seat there.
So only the chief whip actually came around to just grant us that exclusive interview and then went back together with their colleagues to storm the High Court. At the time the Speaker of Parliament entered the chamber, there were a little about 25 to 30 NPP MPs who were on the floor. On the minority side, it was completely empty. I actually saw the Speaker coming in and then looking at the side and was wondering, where are all these members? In fact, when he took his seat, he did not make any comments as to that. But at some point, he was acknowledging some students from Achimota School, and then he said that they were there because of the MP for Okudzeto North, who is an NDC MP. That was at the time that some NPP MPs shouted that, well, she is not even here in the House. She's gone to court to solidarize with their colleagues. And it was then that the Speaker made a little remark that, oh, okay, if that was so, then the House was going to proceed to do other business. So it was empty completely on all the 137 benches in the minority side. There was not a single soul, not a single MP around.
And I wonder what the reaction from their majority colleagues have been to this. You've been chatting with some of them.
Right. So clearly, this crippled Parliament in terms of being able to go ahead and do some of these businesses. For instance, the majority side were pushing that if the NDC MPs were not around to ask these questions, then the questions should be deferred completely. It should not be rescheduled to another time. It was then that the Speaker of Parliament said that there had been some prior agreement that those questions be rescheduled. So when the House eventually took an adjournment to tomorrow, I caught up with two NPP MPs. First, the majority deputy whip, Habib Idrisu, as well as the Tema Central MP, Ives Hansen-Norty. And they described the action of their colleagues as irresponsible and that the calls to have those criminal charges against the NDC MPs dropped are simply untenable.
I don't know where. They were elected to come and sit in Parliament. They were not elected to be accompanying people to court. Their constituents should take note that today they asked a lot of questions about their educational infrastructure, about their health infrastructure, and about tourism in their various constituencies. But they were not in Parliament to even ask those questions. The ministers were there, the answers were provided, but yet none of them were not in the chamber, in the excuse that they have accompanied somebody to court. I don't know what kind of democracy or parliamentary procedure is this, but we are watching them keenly, and the business of the day is done for now. So if we as legislators are making laws and we expect the judiciary to implement it, now we are now telling them that so now Quason is above every other Ghanaian, so they should actually call that all cases in court should be dropped, but not of a particular person. Thank you.
If something happens, we don't take. If we allow him to be not acquitted, but if there's no prosecutor, then obviously you're setting a precedent that would linger on into the future. However, it doesn't also exonerate him, because another Attorney General can come in the future and pick it up and decide to prosecute him. So for me, I think the best thing for him is to go through the processes. If he's found not guilty, hooray, he'll come back and come and work with us. If he's found guilty, he pays for his crimes, and then we continue and move on. So for me, that's it.
So the 137 minority MPs were not in Parliament today. The excuse was that they would rather be in court to solidarize with their colleagues. So were they all in court? I want to bring in Kojo Nyako, who is our court correspondent, and he was in court for us today for two cases. Which were these cases?
Well, so the first one is the James Gyekye Quason case, and the other one is the Kesel Atuforsin case.
Okay, so let's settle this. The MPs were not in the House. It crippled the House. He had to adjourn because of this. No business was done. Were they in court?
Yes, they were all there. In fact, at 10:30, they started trickling in. So the case was called at 11. So at 11, I saw the minority leader leading his team to the criminal court where the James Gyekye Quason case was heard. In fact, he was supported by the deputies and all of them. So they filed past one after the other. In fact, it's not all of them that even got seat to even sit in court. Some of them were standing and they stood throughout the trial.
Okay, I want to bring in right now the Deputy Majority Whip, Habib Idris, who you heard complaining about the action of his colleagues on the minority side. Mr. Idris, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, good evening, Ivan.
Solidarity in politics is everything, is it not? I mean, this is a legitimate action by your colleagues. They are not boycotting Parliament. They are simply showing solidarity with your colleagues who are in court, something that all politicians do.
But, Evans, actually, it is rather unfortunate that our colleagues will boycott parliamentary proceedings today in the name of showing solidarity. Mind you, all 137 members of parliament from the NDC were not in court. It must be on record that not all the 137 of them were in court. But they just try to frustrate government business in the name of the fact that they all want to go and solidarize with their colleagues. If you look at the time even Parliament started, and you look at the time the cases of Apawu and Quason were called, my check shows that I think one was landed around 11 o'clock, the other one was around 4. And we started proceedings today after 12 o'clock. And they had come to ask a lot of questions, and the ministers were there, the answers were provided, and yet they were not in the chamber. This example that members of parliament are setting is very bad for our democracy. We set out rules, we expect the courts to do their own work, and then we are now saying that because somebody has been charged by a criminal case, they will not sit in parliament. They are rather going to solidarize with the person. It is very bad for our democracy.
You say that, but you would have done same if you believe, like they do, that your members are being persecuted.
But, Evans, we've all been in Ghana, and we all know this is not the first time a member of parliament has been charged to court in terms of criminal issues. What Apawu is facing, the charges that he's facing, it is never the case that no NPP MP have ever faced such charges, but they never boycotted court. Quason, we all remember the case of Adamu Sakande. He faced the same cases, but you have never seen the minority then or the MPP then boycotting parliament to say that they are going to court for solidarity. So this is just an indication that our colleagues want to frustrate government business. Our colleagues just want to, I don't know how I'm going to describe it, if not being irresponsible in terms of the democracy that we are going. If you look at Collins Dowda, all the charges that they are facing, it's never the case that no MP have ever faced such charges before. But this that we are experiencing has never been the case. So you could see that today we had a very short sitting. We did some laying of papers and the questions were not being asked. And now the sitting that we have a lot of questions that have been passed. Members of parliament ask specific questions to get information from the ministers, and some are conferences specific. So if you are asking about a classroom block or something not being done in your constituency and you need to know, then at the end of the day, you are saying you are going to court to solidarize with your colleagues. Which one? Is it that your constituency brought you to parliament to be able to speak and work on their interests, or it is not the case that you are going to be accompanying people to court in the name of, solidarizing with them? I think it's rather unfortunate, and our colleagues need to know that this is not the first time that this case has happened before. They need to know that we are not above the law. Quason and Apawu are not the only people who are facing such charges in Ghana. Other members of our other Ghanaians are also being charged criminal charges against. So why are we not saying we are not superior? We are equal before the law. So when you are a member of parliament and you exhibit this kind of character, this kind of, what you are trying to do, what do you tell Ghanaians? That you are now above the law? Then where is the equality before the law?
So the business that was supposed to have been done today, that had been adjourned, will it still be heard? Because the question stood in the name of minority MPs.
Yes, out of the minister, there was 2 agent questions for the Minister for Education and about 610 questions for the Minister of Education. There were 4 questions for the Minister for Tourism and a lot of questions for the Minister responsible for health. They were all the answers for those questions were provided in the order paper today. So we had to make it that Hansard should capture saying that such questions, the ministers were in, the answers were provided for them to come and answer. If they doesn't find a space in the order paper again, the members should not come and say that they have asked questions and ministers haven't responded to it. But because to the best of our knowledge, the questions have been asked. admitted, written to the ministry. The minister was ready. They provided the answers. They were in Parliament to answer those questions, and they were not available to ask.
I mean, this sounds to me like you this is going to be a tit for tat, and so they have urgent questions. They were not there, and so maybe the ministers may not show up.
No, but there are other urgent questions and other questions. So those who will be available for their questions to be asked and answered, the ministers will be responding to that. So definitely, we have already programmed. Today we had a business committee meeting. All questions that are supposed to be asked next week, we did that today. I was at business committee meeting. We've done that. Questions that are supposed to come tomorrow have also been programmed. So until next week and the following week, their questions will not be programmed because it is not part of the business of the week.
So are you suggesting to them that
they won't be part of it?
Well, are you suggesting to them that they will lose the opportunity to ask the questions on behalf of their constituents because today they were not there?
That's not what I said. They have refused today to represent their constituents. So whatever happened is left to them. They're supposed to represent them today. They refuse to represent them. Other questions will be asked if other members who ask those questions are present to ask the ministers, and they will respond to them. But I don't think this week and next week it will find its place into the order paper.
And very quickly before you go, though, I mean, you still need the minority members to have a functioning parliament. Are you talking at all? Is there any dialogue open to try and resolve this?
You know, this 8th Parliament, Evans, I know you've been following this Parliament very keenly, and you could realize a majority of the work that we get done in Parliament is through building consensus and dialogue. But this one is just a surprise, even though the minority leader had hinted that, anytime their colleague is going to court, they will not be coming to Parliament. In fact, this is a total blackmail, because this is not how we dialogue. This is not how we cooperate with each other to get parliamentary business done. So I think maybe after today, tomorrow, if they are in the House, our colleagues will try and talk to them and be able to know. Because, mind you, the Speaker was not even aware that the minority was not going to come to the chamber. He was not aware. If you observe or if you watch the proceedings today, after we had leadership at the conclave, we came in. When the Speaker started the prayers, after the prayers, he had to, suspend sitting and said for 5 minutes. Then we went back to the Speaker chamber to be able to have a discussion. Then he asked the clerks another thing. The clerk said they had reached out to them. They said they were going to have a caucus meeting. Then they were in court. So it was not something that was even known, and it was like something that was just slapped on our faces. We were not expecting it. Neither were the ministers expecting it. That's why they were all in the House to be able to respond to these questions. So moving further, we will devise a strategy to get along with this, to see how these things will be ironed out. But this is actually, it is very bad for our democracy. And as members of parliament, we are not above the law. If we are charged, we should be able to go to court to prove our innocence. And I don't think Atu Folsom or whosoever is charged is guilty at the moment until proven so. So for them, if you are saying you are going to solidarize, are you already saying that they are guilty and you are trooping in there to support them? I don't understand. When you go in there, what is your role in there? Apart from that, they have lawyers who are representing them. The lawyers definitely will present their case on their behalf. You go there and you just stand, and then you are able to leave a job that you were elected
Mr. Habib Idris, I mean, our democratic history is littered with cases like this where the political parties show up in court in their numbers to solidarize. So this is not the first time.
But even does that mean that if it is not the first time, does that mean that it is right? It is not right. And
okay.
We have to say so.
I'm grateful, sir. That's the deputy majority whip there talking to us about the situation in Parliament. I'll take you to call pretty shortly, but I want to quickly bring in Dr. Rashid Draman, who is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, who has been watching this. In fact, he's been at the center of trying to negotiate a setting working relationship that is far more fruitful than what we're currently witnessing under this hung parliament. This is another setback, is it not, Dr. Rashid Draman? They threatened on Tuesday. We spoke to you then. You were hoping that some truce will be reached. It hasn't been reached. Parliament today had to adjourn, because the minority guys were not there. Is this sustainable? Because the case is not ending anytime soon.
Indeed, Evans, it's not sustainable. And I think we know that it's not only the case of the Asinov member of parliament. We have the minority leader. We also have what do you call him, Honorable Collins Dauda, and we don't know who is going to follow next. So if this precedent is set, is it going to be the case that each time a member of parliament is in court to answer questions, we are going to mix the personal legal battles of individual MPs with the business of representing us in the House? Because as we noted today, the House had to adjourn and a number of businesses could not take place because of this absence. And there's representational role that is suffering. Already that's the weakest link, if you like, in the role that members of parliament perform. Most of them don't go to their constituencies. Most of them don't consult. I mean, the people that they are supposed to represent and so on. The list that we get from them in terms of representation is what they do on the floor of the House.
I need to ask them on the back of what is happening. How can this be resolved? Because if this case is going to travel, what we anticipate is a criminal trial. There are 3 of them. Then you can expect that Parliament can work for the next 1.5 years before the elections. Can something be done, and what will you propose?
Well, I think, Evans, what I would propose is, I know over the years, I mean, there have been instances of very high stakes and high tension in the House, and leadership has stepped in and cool heads have prevailed. I think the Right Honorable Speaker has a role in this. The leadership, the entire leadership of the House has a role in this. And I think the earlier they look at this, the better for our democracy.
Okay.
That would separate the issues that that are of concern. I don't think anybody should run away from answering before the court. But maybe if I hear the NDC clearly, I think the approach seems to be what they are questioning.
Yeah, and that's is what is leading to complaints about affecting parliamentary business and all. Dr. Rashid Draman, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story Indeed with your thoughts on this. I want to quickly go to the courts because this was being played out. This was played out in court today, whilst of course Parliament was empty, at least on the minority side. And James Gyekye Quason's case was the first that you sat in. We're learning that the president's rally address at the Sin North was a centerpiece and then led to an exchange of words between Chachu Chikata and the Attorney General. What happened there?
Well, so it became very contentious. In fact, Chachu Chikata in his submission indicated that the president's comment and that of the Attorney General, both in and outside the court, were prejudicial. And so something should be done about it. And so he requested that part of the portions of the tape be played. 1 minute 34 seconds ought to be played. When they started playing it, the Attorney General stood up and said that, well, if the tape would have to be played, then it means that the entire tape would have to be played. So it's about 11 minutes. The president's speech was about 11 minutes. And so it ended that thing. So it was only 50 seconds of the tape that was played in court. But the Chachu Chikata indicated that the judge erred in law. There was an application that ought to have been moved on Tuesday because James Gyekye Quason was on national assignment. That couldn't come off. And so that is why the various arguments of the state and then the accused were taken by the court. I
see. And then the NDC, they've been reacting to what transpired today after the proceedings. What was your position on this?
Also, NDC, the head of legal, Abraham Amalba, indicated that if the application for stay of proceedings is not granted, it means that Mr. James Gyekye Quason is not going to have a fair trial.
Thank you very much. And that's Kojo Nyako there. You want to catch the full detail of what happened in court and see their numbers on television. Watch Prime on the Joy News channel at 7 with the details. Also on our cross many social media platforms. But I quickly want to stay with this subject a while longer. Considering what happened in Parliament today, parliamentary business was halted because the MPs on the NDC side weren't there. One of them is Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He was in court today, I believe. Mr. Ablakwa, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Always a pleasure, Evans.
Were you in court today?
Most definitely.
And so I'm pretty sure you've learned what happened whilst you were away. Parliamentary business was halted. Nothing happened. The Speaker was forced to adjourn. Is this sustainable?
Well, good evening to all our distinguished listeners. First of all, it is important to emphasize that parliamentary boycotts, parliamentary walkouts are tools in the parliamentary basket available to members of parliament. The current president himself has been part of boycotts and walkouts if you look at our parliamentary history. Now, in this present instance, it is important to acknowledge that we are clear in our minds, particularly after listening to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in Ase North, where he made the most prejudicial statement any president has made on an ongoing case, when the president states emphatically, without any ambiguity, without any equivocation, that people of Ase North don't vote for James Gyekye Quason. He's jail bound. He's going to jail. Why vote for somebody who will be operating from prison? I mean, such a grave prejudicial statement. So, since then, our leader announced at the swearing in of Honorable James Gyekye Quason that if we had any doubt, if we thought that there was going to be fair trial, if we thought that this was not a charade, a kangaroo process, the president has settled the matter. And so we cannot continue with business as usual. We must dig deep into our parliamentary toolkit and avail ourselves of these democratic tools that are available to us. And that is why we have said that any time that our colleagues, the Honorable Atu Forson, Minority Leader, who is also facing the most frivolous charge that we have ever seen, I mean, you sign an LC, and we are told that it was his duty to go and inspect vehicles that are supposed to be ambulances.
I mean, to be fair, these matters are now subject of a court hearing. But I need to ask you this: there are 3 cases, at least I can count, involving some of your members. Atu Forson, you just mentioned Gyekye Quason, and then Collins Dauda. If these cases travel the full length, it means, in effect, Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa, that Parliament for the next 1.5 years until the next election can work. Is that acceptable? Is that even realistic? How do you explain that to your constituents, for example?
I can assure you, Evans, that since the minority leader's announcement, I mean, I was in the constituency over the weekend. I arrived to a rousing welcome. The rank and file of our party, our constituents, are very excited about this decision. They say that, look, it's even been too long in coming. And that after listening to the president, I mean, it's so clear that this is a kangaroo process. This is a political witch hunt. There is a clear attempt to persecute political opponents, particularly in this era of hung parliament, so that they can weigh their options in a by-election and see if they can snatch seats and get a comfortable majority. We are saying that we now have to scale up. We are no longer going to adopt a business as usual approach. If they will stop the persecution, if they will stop the witch hunting, then we can sit down and build consensus. Look, we are all reasonable people. We want this country to run. We want governance to be pursued within a cordial atmosphere. We are not happy about this atmospherics. But truth is, when your back is against the wall, you are being witch hunted, you are being hounded. We have been left really with no other option but to embark on this democratic path.
Okay. Thank you very much, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa there. You've heard him. You've heard the NPP side as well in this particular conversation. The MPs, they represent you. I want you to give me your verdict. 055-1111-997. Newsnight starts right now.